Hello, welcome to Holistically Speaking. I am your host, Marna Ehrech, and we have another wonderful show for you today with Marna Ehrech. And I'll tell you a little bit about who Marna is and what we're going to be talking about in a second. But I want to remind you to email us your questions, your ideas for shows that you would like us to do, practitioners who you may know, who you'd like for us to invite to the show. We always strive to bring to you information on holistic healing topics, alternative healing topics. So let us know what you think. And you can email us at holisticspeak@gmail.com. So Marna Ehrech is our guest today. Marna is so many things. She is a dowser, minister, an energy frequency channeler. She is a healing facilitator. She has so many different tools that she's going to be sharing with us today. So Marna, thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Marilla. I'm happy to be here.
Welcome. So Marna, with so many wonderful things that you do, we could have you here for several shows in a row. But I'm really excited to see the different tools that you brought. And as a way to get into this, tell us a little bit about your work. What are some of the things that you're doing these days?
Well, the whole purpose of what I do is to clear energy. We are energetic beings. We have energy bodies as well as the physical body. And if we're going to get ill, if we're going to get sick, if something's going to happen to us, that's going to show up in the energy bodies first. Mm-hmm. So if we use energy to clear that stuff out, to keep our energy bodies clear and shiny, sparkly clean, then life gets a lot easier. Mm-hmm. So I've been working with angelic frequencies, crystal energies for about 35 years. And
quite a bit of time.
Yeah, and I've just had so many wonderful experiences. I just call it magic because that's really what it is. And these are some of my personal tools that I use. And Dr. Oz said on Oprah years ago, energy medicine is the way of the future. Mm-hmm. And I was so excited to hear him say that because I was thinking, oh, people are going to catch on now. And it's still taking a little too long for my taste. But anyway, that's why I do what I do.
Well, and that's really why we're here. I think that so much of the regular kind of conventional approach to healing gets so much airtime and so much press. You know, it's our job to have you show us there are other ways to work on health and healing that, you know, we may not be aware about. Yeah. So tell us a little bit about some of these tools that you're working with, your essences, for example, if we start there.
Well, I started channeling angelic energies back in the early 90s when I was working with one of my spiritual teachers. And I was taught to meditate and do yoga when I was 6 years old. So that's when my guides started showing up. Wow. So I'd been working with them all that time, but it was that teacher who introduced me the idea of channeling frequencies. Mm-hmm. And once I got that, I was like, oh my goodness, I realized I could ask my own guides for my own energies. Right. So I did. I just said to them in a meditation one day, I want to channel an energy for clearing. And boom, I went into this deep meditation and the symbol appeared and I got the download. And from then on I could just sign the symbol and the clearing frequency would just rush right through. And beautiful. I did that over and over. So now I have 16 different angelic energies that I channel. Well, at one point I was doing my healing practice in my home in Shelburne and my kids were at the stage where they were just taking a lot of time, so I stopped doing that. But before I did, I wanted to be able to give my clients the tools to take these home with them. Right. So I figured out how to put energies in a bottle.
Which is fascinating because I have some of your frequencies, your essences, and I love them. It is really hard for me to grasp. What is it that you do? How do you bottle a frequency, an angelic? So tell us a little bit about that.
Water's an amazing medium. Mm-hmm. Dr. Emoto from Japan has shown us what the possibilities are with water, capturing energy and radiating it. Yeah. And that's all I do. I do it in a sacred ceremony and it's very powerful. And once the energy is in the essence, then it's there, and just a little shake reactivates it, and you can just go with it. I have now 5 different lines of energy essences because I also make essences out of my crystal collection.
Oh, wow. So what's the difference, for example, between a crystal essence that you might make and an angelic essence that you channel?
Well, the energy, the crystal essence captures the energy of the stone. And the angelic energies are from the angelic realm, whereas the crystal energies are earth-based.
Gotcha.
So there's a big difference
Very
energetically,
different, yeah.
and we just don't have enough words in the English language for energy, so you just have to experience it.
So if someone, tell us an example of someone who might benefit of, or maybe a story of someone who's used your frequencies, your essences for something in particular and how it might help, so that our viewers might say, oh, this is how I could use Marna's essences.
Yeah, well, the basic thing I start with is the clearing and the healing, which were the first two energies I asked my guides for. Because in this world, we're all laden with so much guck, emotional, mental, stress, energy guck, that, you know, we need something to clear it out.
Yeah.
So clearing was the first one I asked for. But once you clear stuff out, then there's a void, and you need to fill it. And that's why I asked for the healing energy.
Yeah.
So one story involves a dear friend who called me in a panic one morning and said her partner had just had emergency brain surgery the night before as a result of a subdural hematoma.
Wow.
And to get up to the hospital right away. And so I went carrying my basket of essences and my crystal wands.
Yeah.
I don't worry about looking like a fool anymore. And I went right into the emergency, into the intensive care. And my friend was on the bed and had her head shaved, and a very, very long scar that just kind of wrapped its way all around her skull. And just putting my hand up to her head, I could feel the energy of the trauma of the operation 2 feet away from her head. And so I used the clearing essence to clear that energy of the trauma out. And that took a while. I also used a wand, and I channeled clearing through crystals. It was a big effort to get all that energy of the trauma out. While I was doing that, one of the nurses came in and was fascinated. She was from Eastern Europe or something, and so she was very open to it. And she said, "What are you doing? Can I try?" And she put her hand in the aura of my friend while I was doing that, and she said, "I feel tingling. I can feel what you're doing."
Yeah.
It was really cool. So then I got all the energy of the trauma out, and then I applied healing energy in. Well, I did this about 6 days in a row, and my friend who had the operation was about in her 40s, and interestingly, a man in his 20s had the same surgery at the same time. She was out of the hospital in half the time he was.
Your friend was out in half the time.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Yeah, after brain surgery.
After brain surgery. And you used your clearing, well, you used your whole battery of essences, I'm sure.
Exactly, yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a wand, and I see a couple of them here. Maybe you can show them what they look like.
Yeah.
And how do you use them?
Well, we're going to have, I'm doing a wand making workshop soon, in the next couple weeks or so. So that's why I brought these. This is a single terminated wand. It's a copper tube. Here's some copper at the end. And this is a double terminated wand. It's got an amethyst here and a double terminated crystal up here. And they're kind of like the nuclear reactor of crystal energy. They focus it so powerfully.
Yeah.
I actually stopped a truck that was about to cause a horrendous accident with a crystal wand one day.
Oh my God.
I'd been following him, and I could see his driving was erratic.
Yeah.
And we were pulling up to this intersection, and we had a stop sign, and the other way did not. And there were all kinds of cars coming, and he was not slowing down. And we were right up at the stop sign.
Can I hold one?
Yes. And without even knowing what I was doing, I had a wand, which was on the car seat beside me. It was in my hand, and I screamed, "He's got to stop." And right then, as soon as my intent went out, he hit the brakes.
Wow.
And just slid. But the interesting thing was, he stayed there in the road, and after all the cars were gone, he just sat there. And finally, he went across the intersection, and that was the way I was going too. So I followed him across. And again, he stops his truck in the middle of the road. And he gets out and he comes over to me and he looks at me and he said, "Do you know where I can get a cup of coffee?"
Oh, wow.
And I said, "I think you need a nap." And he said, "No, coffee." And then he looked back at the intersection and he said, I don't know what happened back there. I did not see that stop sign.
Wow.
I know.
That's incredible.
So
you're
tools.
doing incredible tools, and so you have a workshop coming up on, I saw it on your website, on the 22nd.
Yeah.
22nd, at the Rainbow
Institute.
Institute in Burlington on Church Street. And so people are going to walk out with their own magic wand.
They are.
And so I'm noticing this looks like, is it like an amethyst on one end?
Amethyst, yeah.
And a crystal quartz on the other end. So
Yeah.
how do you choose which crystals you're going to use for any given wand?
And that's where your intuition comes in. I will have crystals there if people want to bring their own stone. If you've been working with a crystal for a while and you really like it, but maybe it's time for a new chapter for it, then you can put it in a wand.
And if somebody doesn't have the crystals, they can come to your workshop and...
I've got some to buy,
And
yeah.
you have, I have seen your crystal collection. You have a ton, and they're beautiful crystals. And so, how would people use their wand? Like once they have their wand, how do they use it? What do they do
Many
with it?
ways. There are techniques you can use to circulate energy through your aura with a wand. You can do it with your friends. When you're sitting in meditation, if you're doing, if you want to send healing to a loved one who's injured or sick or something, just hold the wand in your right hand and send the energy out. It's a great transmitter.
Right.
And it not only transmits, but it enhances and magnifies the energy greatly.
Yeah, it's funny because just as I'm holding it, these last few minutes, I've been feeling like, oh, I just really want to play with it and move it. And
yes.
This is really wonderful. So very cool. Okay, so what else did you bring that you want to tell us about? You've got all these crystals. Tell us how you use, like for example, this beautiful...
Big ones like that are generally space holders.
Yeah.
In fact, these two obviously go together, and I had them outside in last night's rainstorm.
Oh, wow.
And just as an aside for your viewers, elements are a great way to clear your crystals. So if you have a rainstorm coming up, especially thunder and lightning.
Oh, thunder, yeah.
Oh my goodness, they love that.
Put them all out.
Put them out there, obviously in a safe place where dogs aren't going to run them over or whatever.
Right.
But snowstorms, what are snowflakes?
Yeah.
They're little crystals.
Oh, of course.
With all these crystals cleansing the air and then landing on the stones.
Yeah.
They come in just blazing so bright. It's quite amazing. So the bigger ones, as I said, I will charge up with specific energies for a specific purpose, for a various client or just to keep the space in my house clear or whatever.
They're just gorgeous. And so I'm curious, what effect do people notice of getting, say, that beautiful rose quartz sphere and placing it in a space? What do people notice?
Well, that's a great question for another little story. This is interesting. So I have an apprentice. I'm developing apprenticeship programs.
Wonderful.
And my first apprentice has just completed her first program. It was a 3-month program. And as part of that, I would give her all kinds of assignments. And one of her assignments was to take some small stones. Now we're talking tumbled stones about this big. They don't have to be big. It's what you do with them. We charged them up with energies.
Yeah.
In fact, she got the activation for my clearing and healing. So she charged them up with energies. And then, this was the assignment, put them in the 4 corners of a classroom she was attending at one of our local colleges.
Oh, wow.
So she snuck these stones into the 4 corners of this room about an hour before her class. And this is a class in which there's 30 students. They'd been meeting for a month, 3 times a week, and no one spoke except for her and 2 other students. They were the only ones who would talk.
Wow.
So she put these 4 little tumbled stones in the room and decided she was just going to sit back and watch.
Yeah.
Well, that room turned into the most lively discussion and debate, and the conversations wasn't even just between student and teacher. The students were talking, very involved. Everyone was animated and engaged.
Wow.
in the conversation for the whole class time.
So was that her intention as she charged?
No,
Okay.
she just wanted to see what would happen.
What would...
She just charged up the stones and put them in the room. So that's what happens to the energy in a room when you put in stones that are cleared and charged up.
They can really shift things.
Really shift things.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just mentioned that you have an apprenticeship program. So tell us what that's about. And yeah, tell us what that's about.
Well, this is my first one that I've created. I'm working on another one, but she did a 3-month program, which included my clearing activation and my healing activation. I'm working on a shorter one, a 5-week clearing and healing. She wanted a lot of the extra teaching that I do.
Yeah.
But I've got a couple other people interested in more of I want to be a healer. How do I do it? What tools do I need?
Yeah.
So I'm creating a 5-week program where the first session will be a major clearing of yourself. I'll do a subconscious reset where I douse to see what percentage of resistance you're holding on the subconscious level to the idea of becoming a healer and the idea of clearing out your own crap.
Exactly.
And so that's the first one. And then you get a bottle of clearing and healing with it, and you practice that first week how to use the energy just with the bottle. And then on the second one, you'll get your clearing activation.
Yeah.
And then work with that for the next week. And then the third week, you'll get your healing activation, and then work with that. And then we kind of wrap it up with some comprehensive teaching in the 5th week.
So how would people get into that apprenticeship with you?
Well, go to my website, which is marnashealingarts.com, and I've got a lot of information there.
Okay.
And the apprenticeship program is pretty new, so I've got some stuff on there, but not all of it, so that will be forthcoming. But a great way to start and to get to know me, just to even find out if you like my work and the way I do things, is to show up for my Wednesday night meditation, which is every Wednesday at the Rainbow Institute, which is 19 Church Street, top of Church Street. And that's at 5:30, and I pretty much bring out over time every tool that I have. So I'll bring out bowls, crystal singing bowls, all kinds of stuff.
And one of the things that I remember hearing you talk about, and then I read it on your website this morning about, I believe this was at your Wednesday meditation, you channeled universal light. And the group that day really felt it. So,
the day I did that, they got the free activation.
They got the free activation of the universal
light. Yeah, that was awesome.
So, what do you do in these meditations, and how do people then apply, or what do they walk away with? Because it doesn't sound like your traditional meditation that sometimes most people will think of meditation as kind of stilling of the mind and quietness, and but this is not what you're doing. So
no, I just don't have the talent for sitting still and doing nothing. Never been my strong suit. So I realized I had to do something with my energy while I was sitting.
Yeah.
And so once I got these activations from my guides, I just started using them by applying them to my chakras, applying them to my aura during a meditation, and the feeling of my aura expanding and my chakras being healed was just phenomenal.
Right.
So in the meditations, we always start with using my third eye clearing spray essence, and that goes right on the third eye, because if you don't have clarity, if you're not experiencing what's going on around you or in the meditation with clarity of perception, then what the heck, So third eye clearing is one of the essences I go through so fast, because I want to have clarity to perceive what's actually going on around me.
Yeah.
So we start with that, and then opening up the crown chakra, our connection to the divine, to our higher self. And then we'll launch into the main meditation, which can involve, one night I could just bring in all of my fluorite pieces.
Yeah.
And we can experience fluorite sphere and fluorite clusters and fluorite octahedrons and how they work in our body. Another night we might do a deep chakra, heart chakra clearing. One night I brought in the Tibetan ablution spouting dragon bowl, and we played that.
I have heard you talk about that, and I've never seen it.
It's phenomenal. You play it. You fill this bronze bowl with water, and it's got these handles, and you play it. But I put essences in the water. So as you play it, the water spouts up, and the energy fills the room.
Right.
And then we all used that energy to heal whatever we wanted to work on ourselves that night.
Yeah.
So.
It sounds, what I'm loving about what how you're describing your meditations, of what it's sounding to me is, it sounds very playful.
Yeah.
Very explorative.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, let's see what we can discover, and, you know, how we can, through the discovery and through the playfulness, find ways to heal ourselves, center ourselves, find an answer,
Exactly.
or whatever.
Yep, get to know ourselves.
Get to know ourselves, which is really lovely.
That's the point, yeah.
You have another workshop that I saw on your website today that seems really powerful for those who relate to it, and it's a workshop on healing sexual abuse. And that's coming up June 29th. So I would love, since, you know, this is so relevant, and we might have someone watching who could really benefit from that workshop, what is it that they might do that you're looking to have people at that group kind of move through and come away with?
Well, healing sexual abuse is, it's a journey, and there's so many facets to it, and I know from personal experience. So I just want to create a safe place for people to work on that energetically. You know, once you get the memories back, if you ever lost them or whatever, you know, you usually go to therapy, you can go to a 12-step group, there's different ways, but that's a lot of head stuff. There's not a lot of heart stuff, and there's not a lot of energy work going on. Whereas abuse like that creates such damage on the energetic level in terms of our belief systems as well. And the belief systems set up patterns that aren't just behavioral patterns, they're energetic patterns.
Yeah.
And we can strive to clear the behavioral patterns and the belief systems all we want, but if we don't clear out the energetic, you know, literally the conduits for those behaviors, then they're still there.
Yeah.
So energetically, I've got a great set of crystals that I'm going to use for the class, and it'll just be a chance to really take your healing of that issue to a whole different dimension. I'm really looking forward to it.
Wow, Marna, you know, in just these few minutes talking together, what I'm getting is that people who will benefit from working with you are, you know, people with sexual abuse who can come to this workshop, people who are looking to learn more about working with energies and playing with energy, and, you know, maybe doing an apprenticeship, or maybe just even starting with baby steps and coming to a meditation and seeing, okay, what does Marna have up her sleeve today, and what are we going to play with, and just, you know, get more acquainted with working with subtler aspects of experience. You know, it's not the physical, you know, dimension so much.
Even people who just want to feel a little better.
People who want to feel a little better, people who need maybe clearing or a shift in their environment, they can work with your crystals or your wands. And I know you also work with people one-on-one. You have private sessions. So if you were to rattle off a list of, you know, people who are watching, it's like, if you have, you know, this, what are the different things that you can help people with?
Oh boy. You know, it's so funny because someone could come in thinking that they're working on this, and then once they're in there, it actually unfolds into something else. One woman came in working on grief. Well, and yeah, she was working on grief because she's remarried after being widowed.
Yeah.
And she just hadn't really landed in that second marriage yet. And so her dead husband, her former husband, came into the session.
Wow.
And I could hear what he was saying, and I shared it with her, and it was an incredible session. So what you need will come out. I work with your higher self. I let your higher self tell you what needs to come out.
So anybody who's feeling maybe at a loss for what to do with whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, or they can come to you and say, Marna, I need help.
And I do a 20-minute session or an hour session, so you can start with baby steps.
So you have a couple resources on, you know, that people can look up. So let's take a look at that. That's Marna's Healing Arts. That's your website. And what might people find on your website that...
I've got a blog there on my spiritual stuff. I've got a list of services offered, and all kinds of ideas and descriptions of things, clearing crystals, energy, all of that stuff is there. I also have another blog, which is more of a mainstream blog, and that's marnasmusings.blogspot.com.
Which is a fun read, I've read. I've read it many times. And cosmacreations@gmail, that's your email address, obviously.
Yeah.
Where people can reach you for help and say, Marna, I'm feeling stuck. I need help with my house, with my health, with my relationship.
With a ghost.
With a ghost, yeah. So, or to come to your workshops. So one of the things that, I was just yesterday talking with a friend, and I realized this is essentially, this is quite literally the work that you do, is that a lot of times this energy work, it doesn't necessarily make physical sense. It's not something rational, but it works. It's not something that can be explained with the physics and the way that we've typically looked at things, but it works.
Right.
So, yeah, did you?
Well, the thing is, scientists have said the percentage of reality we can actually see with our physical eyes is 4%. I actually heard an update of less than 1%.
Yeah.
We're going to shut ourselves off to 99% of reality because we can't see it?
Right.
What sense does that make? I'm sorry, but that is logical. Keep open.
Yeah.
Be open. Energy is 99% of reality.
Yeah. So as we wrap up the show, we have about a minute. Is there... Well, that's a wonderful way to end it. What we see is only a tiny fraction.
Yeah, and energy is everything. And I would just, especially in this day and age, there's so much cosmic energy coming in and disrupting our lives. And every thought you think, every deed you do, every word you say, watch it. Be careful, because they all matter. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Marna. This was such a treat for me. And thank you for joining us, for viewing. We definitely hope that this was helpful to you, that you found something that might illuminate your path and find a new tool, a new way of looking at what you're dealing with. And if you have any questions or feedback, we would love to hear from you. Please write us at holisticspeak@gmail.com. We hope to see you soon.